Our next speaker, Mr. Ashok Kanawala, brings extensive experience in mutual fund distribution, product strategy, and investor management as the head of distribution alliances and product strategy at HDFC Mutual Fund. Mr. Ashok Kanawala has played a key role in strengthening distribution partnerships and developing investment solutions for investors across the country. With deep insights into markets, investor behavior, and wealth creation, he is well positioned to share valuable perspectives with us today. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Kanawala as he speaks on war, wisdom, and wealth.
And I call upon Mr. Palni from the EC team to welcome the speaker, Mr. Ashok, in the center.
Good morning, friends. And thank you, IFPA, for this opportunity. And of course, the topic, as you can see, war, wealth, and wisdom, times of war. Generally, war, what it really demonstrates, period of commotion, chaos, confusion, stress, uncertainty. How can you make wealth out of this, from this kind of period? And we have seen multiple wars in the last 4-5 years, right? So now, maybe let me ask you one simple question. Are you aware that we have a defense fund? How many have invested for their partners or their investors? Quite a few. And why I'm saying this, look at the map of India. Right? When you look at a map of India, what do you really make out? Will the defense budget or requirement will ever go down? It's very simple, no? One side is and we have somehow the most troubled neighbors, and we have been spending a lot to secure a border. But more so today, in today's time, after what has happened in Middle East, the need for defense has grown worldwide. It's not only localized to India as a country, but worldwide. Those people who were in Middle East thought that somebody will come and support them in times of crisis, and therefore they never spent on defense, suddenly found themselves wanting on defense. So it's no more a localized thing, and we continue to spend money. And see, when you invest in a company, what do you look at it? That whether this company's product will have a demand. And defense is a set of companies, I don't think, given the kind of geography that we have, is ever going to go down. And how we continue. And Chanakya says that only that country will be economically strong, whose militarily also is strong. If I look at the world order today, and I find that US is almost sort of ruling the world and calling the shots, from where it is coming. Of course, they're economically very strong, largest economy, but they're militarily also extraordinarily strong. And the same case is with China, who can see head to head or eye to eye with America. Not many countries can do that, right? So therefore, defense is one such subject which India's budget has always grown and will grow further. And why I'm saying that just if you would read, and why I'm making a case here, look at the history of India. Right? And we have never attacked any country, but we have always been attacked by other countries. And we only defended our borders or whatever. Somehow, we could not succeed earlier, right? Maybe for two reasons. I can see that from history books, that A, the other side was much stronger in army or warheads. And secondly, there were some traitors from our side. And that's why, whether it was a Rajasthan side or even in Maharashtra, Chhatrapati Shivaji side, they were troubled time defending their own territories. Come Britishers, and there was a mutiny of 1857. There was a pan-India movement, but still we lost. Why? Because their warheads were much better. They had rifles, we had swords. And come to this current, after the independence in 1962, when we had a war with China, we lost some land, right? Because they were much stronger in their approach. But thereafter, the development on defense side has been happening. And we had 1971 war, then we had a 1999 war, Kargil war, and recently we also had Operation Sindoor, where we could really decimated our neighbors, etc. And that story is not ending. Just a couple of days ago, India declared that there are 12 nuclear warheads in a ready position below the sea as well as the land. Where they are, that we don't know, but ready to fire at any point in time. So that shows the preparedness that India is giving its importance to defense. And today, the BrahMos, today morning I was just reading somewhere, now Russia in BrahMos Avatar 2 wants it to be implemented in their own army. So the Indian evolution on defense side is of a different level. The biggest thing coming out of this defense is the other subset, which is very logical. When a war happens, what happens? Destruction. And after destruction will be resurrection. Now, what has happened in this kind of war, and it is, while not many countries were involved, but it has indirectly impacted all the countries because of the oil crisis, right? And if you really see this way, now, after the war is coming to an end, and of course, still the negotiation will go on for the next 60 days, every country stands exposed on the energy front. Whether you are developed, advanced, etc., whatever. And the same time, defense front. So what is logical fallout? And we also got, because our LNG supplies got affected, our oil supplies got affected, right? So that logical fallout of this kind of war is that everybody will have to start focusing on manufacturing big time. Whether it is on energy front, whether on a defense front, you have to build. And it's not true for India. It's a global movement which is going to happen. As I told you, Middle East countries stood exposed. Although they had oil, they stood exposed because of defense was low on their side. Maybe Japan was not there, but it got exposed because energy became a concern for them. So every country, and NATO, which was having a basis across the world, now they decided to withdraw 5,000 troops from Germany. Now Germany is large economic giant of Europe, also stands exposed. Why? Either they were getting gas supply from Russia. Russia can anytime switch off the supply. They stand exposed on energy front. And today, NATO has withdrawn 5,000 troops, etc. Then they also know that they also have to invest. So it's not going to be manufacturing. It's not going to be a localized Indian situation. It's going to be a global situation. And one more thing. AI ecosystem. So we keep hearing about semiconductors, we keep hearing about data center. Why we are doing that? Today that semiconductor goes in our iPhones or maybe mobile phones, maybe in autos, maybe in defense. And today the checkpoint was Hormuz, right? And the other bigger choke point is your Strait of Malacca near Singapore. Suppose, for God's sake, heaven, whatever happens between China and Taiwan, and suddenly chip supply to the world stops. What do? So you have no choice. India's perennial problem has been what? Current account deficit. India's perennial problem or perpetual problem has been current account deficit. That means our imports are higher than our exports. China does not have much of a problem. They are a surplus country. Japan does not have a problem. They are a surplus country in terms of current account. But we are always going to be deficit, because our oil needs to be imported. But now if I want to make a surplus, what do? That means I have to bring down my oil imports or maybe overall imports, or I have to increase my exports. Oil import is reducing beyond a point is not possible, because eventually what is going to happen? We don't have wells. So we have to rely on external oil, right? So therefore, we have to start looking at alternative sources of I would say, energy. So maybe we are now out of this crisis, we have started looking at renewables more seriously. Of course, renewables have been doing more. So in the run of Kutch, there's a place called Khavda, where 600 square kilometers renewable solar renewable park is coming up. 600 square kilometers, just understand the dimension. The dimension means that it is 5 times the size of city of Paris. That big a park is coming up. And it will produce 30 gigawatt of solar power, feeding into our grids. So gradually we have understood that if we depend more on external oil, eventually it's going to be that. Because if we are again in that same situation, you can understand the kind of predicament it will have. And India has a history of responding very well to the crisis. So when I started my career in 1991, 35 years ago, India had no money to pay for foreign exchange. And we had, some seniors will understand, realize that, remember, that we pledge our gold to Bank of England to pay for our for our imports, right? And then that laid the starting point of economic reforms, and we are all bearing the fruits of that. In 2013-14, if you say our banking system was completely paralyzed because of the phone banking system, and we came out with insolvency and bankruptcy code, and today, even despite the crisis, our banking position is quite healthy. It was in COVID, when world had no response, India came out with its vaccine and not only supported our own people, but supplied to the world, and we medically also sort of a proven thing. Now this is another type of crisis, which is oil crisis before us. And I'm sure the response will be that whether it's a coal gasification or laying more lines or renewables, etc., we'll find out a solution so that we don't go back into that. So if I'm saying, therefore, 3-4 things which will drive the world order as far as in times to come is going to be AI ecosystem. So semiconductors, our Prime Minister himself is driving that commission. And you can understand the seriousness. Now, Prime Minister goes to Netherlands and ties up with ASML. It makes machines for manufacturing chips. And it is the only company in the world which can make that machine for a high-end chips to be made. And you can believe this, that China tried, Japan tried, every developed nation tried to tie up with Netherlands, but they never tied up, and they tied up only with India. And Tata Electronics and ASML has a tie-up, and therefore, that semiconductor mission, we are taking it so seriously so that we don't get into this. I'm just trying to make a point here, why that manufacturing will be a big thing. Today, not only because we'll have to manufacture for the world at large, but we'll have to manufacture for our own self. We have a population of 140 crores. Over the years, it will become 150 crores. It's not going to be 135 crores. The consumption requirement will continue to go up. If I don't produce for myself, if I don't manufacture for myself, that means I have to import my requirements from the other countries. And if that condition, again, some kind of choke point will come up, will be completely a societal mode for us. And therefore, as I said, AI ecosystem, energy security, maybe defense, power and utilities, because if a data center comes up, it is a power guzzler. You require power 24/7. So you need to support data centers with power. You require cooling system to support data centers. All this has to come up. Of course, government has given tax benefits, so what? But after that, all this. So besides the conventional manufacturing happening in autos, pharmas, metal, etc., the new high-end manufacturing will take up the shape even in the world order, and therefore manufacturing automatically becomes a logical fallout of any warlike situation. But when it comes to market, so what we find that people generally don't like sort of volatility and try to avoid volatility. But market is a very unique thing. While I'm giving you a chart before you, what you can understand that these are the blue lines are the yearly returns, calendar year returns, and you can see since 2000, there are so many blue. So despite volatility, that red line which is volatility, yearly volatility, every year there will be some kind of volatility in the market for some reason, X, Y, Z. And last year, recent volatility was Iran war. If you go back last year, it was Operation Sindoor, maybe tariff, maybe slowdown, whatever it was. War happening in 2022 was COVID, etc. But volatility will always be there. Uncertainty is the only certainty in the market. Uncertainty is the only certainty in the market. But what you have to see the outcome, even in a COVID year, when market fell 40% on a yearly basis, again the market was in positive. So eventually what we need to focus is on the better side of it. Volatility will always be there, but you can always make money out of this volatility. That's what I'm trying to convey. But why I'm saying this, that let us look at slightly a better picture here. And this is what we say, okay, whenever this kind of volatility happens, right? What we say, we go back to the basics. This is the Sensex rolling return slide since inception of 1979. And you can see that index floated on the second column, starting with 100, ending at 72,000 on March 26. Now, very interesting question that I can see that in March 25, 1 year return is 5%. 1 year return is 5%. For 5%, nobody comes to equities, right? For 5%, nobody comes to equities. But look at right side. If you go to 3 year, it is 10%. If I go to 5 years, it is 21%, right? Now, if I go further, it is again 11, 10, 13, whatever it will, over a 10, 15. One more observation, you can see the number of rates are maximum in the 1 year column. And as you keep on increasing your holding period on the right side, the number of rates will continue to go down, and around 10 years time, there are hardly any rates and only blacks are there. That means equity by definition is a long-term asset class. It's not a short-term asset class. But in the short term, this kind of volatility can happen. Again, coming back to the point, 5, 10, 21. Now, if I were to ask you a very simple question, is equity investing an art or science? What do you think? Anybody can attempt. It's like anybody's mental guess. Yeah? What do you think? Is equity investing an art or science? Art. Both. Why?
Both behavior and data, both are together in this for prediction.
Answer is correct, right? But let me explain you with some kind of numbers there, right? Now look at this way. On the right side table corner, right? If you see FY 15 to 25, your earning growth is 9.5%, and your index growth is also around 10%, and your nominal GDP is also around 10%. Now I've broken that 15 to 25 into two buckets of 5 years each. 15 to 20 and 20 to 25. Now if you see 15 to 20, the earnings growth is only around 2.5%. Market is a barometer of sentiment. It becomes more pessimistic when things are not okay. There was no growth on the index, virtually flat growth. But your nominal GDP, that is real GDP plus inflation, was roughly around 10%, right? Come to the second bucket, 20 to 25. The post-COVID recovery was there. 16.5% was earnings growth. Market automatically becomes more euphoric. The index return became 22.5%. But again, look at nominal GDP, it's 10.5%. So what I'm trying to make a point here is that your nominal GDP does not change on a day-to-day basis, right? Good times, bad times will be part of the markets and the economy, but nominal GDP almost remains same. Now let me give you one more demonstration to this. Just when the war was going on, we had a World Cup final in Ahmedabad, and stadium was full. Then you had a release of Dhurandhar movie, with a blockbuster movie, collected more than 1,000 crores, right? Followed by IPL for 2 months, across the country, no stadiums were empty, right? So, while we focus on war, outcomes, uncertainty, etc., India's nominal GDP does not change. Therefore, over 10-year period, what you see is a nominal GDP return. And therefore, any fund manager will come and tell you that expect 10-12% return from the market. But that is a science part of it. Why I'm saying that? Because Newton made a law of motion, that for every third law of motion, for every action, there's equal and opposite reaction. So you made a rocket out of that. Einstein gave E equal to mc square. Somebody made atom bomb out of that. And this is something for us, like a principle, that if your nominal GDP does not change, then over a period of medium to long term, you can expect return coming out of the nominal GDP. But then what's the art part of it? There will be volatility in the market. And that's what I was talking about in March 25, 5 years return, if you see. What was 5 years ago? It was a COVID time, exactly around that time, March, market collapsed by 40%. And those who invested during those volatile period actually made more than. So if I don't do anything and I remain invested on a very linear basis, I can expect 10 to 12%. But if I use the volatility of the market to my advantage, then probably over the years, my return will be better than nominal GDP. And therefore, this time, the market corrected because of the war, or with the Iran war. Maybe next year, market may go down because of something else. And volatility will always be there. But instead of running around from volatility, if we keep against going around and start investing in volatility, probably our returns will be there. And market has a unique ability of discounting future much ahead of times. Much ahead of times. Why I'm saying this? Because when COVID started in March 20, right, the bottom was made on the day that, that economy was, everybody was asked to stay home, right? And thereafter the COVID started, 1 lakh case, 2 lakh case, 5 lakh case. In fact, COVID 2 in April 21 was much lethal than 1. Despite that, you continued to, there was no reaction in the market. And the same thing is happening. So why this war, wealth and wisdom? So when World War II was happening, and World War II was where most countries were involved and engaged, it started with Germany. And at the other side was England. These two countries finding it ended with Japan. The wars lasted for more than 6 years. But you'll be surprised to know that England or UK market bottomed in 1940. Thereafter, war continued for 5 years. It never went to that level. So today, when you see March, when the war started around end of February, and it made a panic bottom on March 30, and thereafter, the negotiation, somebody says, one day Trump says that I'm accepting, someday he says not accepting, market remained volatile. Today, now it has ended after 3 months, more or less, you can see that. And you can see this, that markets are ready to go, right? So I think war, wealth, and wisdom, whenever there's a more lesson, not coming out of war alone, but volatility will always be there. And therefore, if you see what Warren Buffett says, that market is a place where money gets transferred from impatient to patient, right? And to make money in this market, you don't have to be sort of a very intelligent IITian or IIM guy. You just have to be normal in having a good control over your sentiment, and that's how you can make money. And that's the biggest lesson, if I can make out of this, that why this country. Now, just look at this way. Why India had a challenge? Just think this way, that suddenly oil became a scarcity, we were paying $65 to $70, and suddenly that became $100, so we were paying $30 more, right? Now, if you're paying $30 more, eventually your deficit will start going up, your imports will go up, therefore deficit, so therefore rupee will depreciate, so rupee depreciated to 95 rupees, 97 rupees on the peak. There was a panic. And to support that, RBI came and sold dollars. If RBI sells dollars, they suck out more liquidity from system. So interest rates went up. Sentiment-wise, equity market went up. Everything went, and India's macro looked like a bleak picture. And everybody got worried. But eventually, war has to end. War ended. And what happened? Oil below 80. And government came out with a game-changer scheme, FCNRB. FCNRB is where we will invite money from NRIs, in which whatever rupee depreciation year after year, the hedging will be done by RBI. So commercial banks have no loss to share. We are expecting $80 billion. So our reserves will cross $700 billion immediately using why? If everything is wow, you will get so much liquidity, interest rate starts collapsing. Market takes cognizance of that now there is no more deposit problem. All bankers were giving you call, please give us some deposit. Now bankers will no more give you call, because they also got $80 billion of deposit. So everything is looking fine at a macro level. And the story continues. So after 2 months, everybody will forget. Maybe after 1 year, will nobody talk about Iran war. The situation very simple, that if you really want to make money out of this, focus on two funds like defense or manufacturing going forward. But I will not take much because there's a time, only way to make money or wealth creation is three principles. It's a tipoy, right? And one leg is not there, you will never create wealth. So it's sound investment plus time plus patience. If you have one leg missing, your wealth creation journey will get punctured. And now I'll not take much time here because the time is a paucity here, but let me just give you one fund, this fund, right? This is one fund. Somebody and a lot of partners keep coming back to us, sir, performance has got impacted because they're used to such a high performance from this fund. This is a flexi cap fund, more than 30 years, right? And it has seen Kargil war, it has seen Operation Hindu, it has seen so many local wars, global wars, economic crisis. NAVs do go down. It's not that NAV is not down. NAVs do go down. So Doding.com of 2000, NAV did go down by 50%, but portfolio nicely managed. In next 2 years, the NAV was 150%. And I'm just talking about major events. It's of global financial, NAV again went down by 60%. But again in the recovery, the NAV was up to 23%. And today, if I look at, COVID, 40%, the NAV was down. And just look what happened in next 24 months. The NAV was again up by 150%. So a good fund will always participate in economic recovery. Those are the people who are trying, as I said, EQ and IQ. And if you see this, those who just keep investing or remain invested like in SIP of 10,000 rupees, now that 38 lakh rupees is worth 21, 22 crores. So while the value of SIP keeps on jumping here and there, so I've just given some quarterly, it was 22 crores, 23 crores nearly on December 31st. Market went down, it became 20 crores. Market again started going up, it's again back to 21 crores. And again, if market, because of the economic recovery of whatever resurrection happens, if the NAV again goes back, you will be again at a new high. So similarly, we have so many funds, positive time, I don't want to get into that picture, right? It's just one last message that I want to say, that If you want to walk fast, walk alone. If you want to walk far, then walk together. And that's what I think HDFC has done enough from the last 25, 26 years we have been doing across the board, across time, across the various strategies. I think we have created, you have really supported us. Thank you very much for that support. And this remains the simple mantra of wealth creation. Yeah, there's nothing you have to do. So I'll just always end with a short story. Only 1 minute I will take. And so two kids playing in a garden, right? And they decided to fool a wise man. And how do they fool a wise man? Wise man sitting below a tree. So they catch hold of a fly, and with the fly they go to the wise man and ask him one simple question: is fly dead or alive? Right? Is fly dead or alive? And if he says dead, then we'll open the palm, fly will fly off. If he says fly is alive, then we'll press the palm and fly will die. With this, they go to the wise man and ask this simple question, whether dead or alive. And what is the wise man's answer? Because wise man is a wise man, he has to answer very smartly. So he says, life and death of the fly is in your hand. Life and death of the fly is in your hand. What I'm trying to say is that wealth creation is a very simple process. But if we keep on meddling around, eventually that journey will get punctured. And it will never create. So destiny is in our hand. Thank you very much.
Token of appreciation to our speaker, Mr. Ashok Kanawala. Thank you, Mr. Kanawala, for that insightful session.